the Arsenal Way. My name's Puri. You can follow me on Twitter. And joining me today is Des from the. Wait, what was you at again?
There's. I've been suspended a couple of times, so it's triple Z.
Yeah, because you and I think Medio Centro.
Yeah.
You two have a lot of issues. But anyways, Abdul, you probably know him, Flaminiesta from Twitter. Hi, hey Mike.
Hey man, I'm happy to be here. I'm just ready to crack my knuckles and get on with this Emery slander business.
Okay, don't we all? Anyways, so I'm going to start off by trying to get a grip on what the hell just happened and make sure that the ones listening also know, and maybe you guys can educate me on something like that because I didn't understand that game whatsoever. Des, I'm going to start with you. What did you think that Arsenal were basically trying to do the entire match? Sum it up in two categories of what we did right and what we did wrong. Go.
Okay. In the game, I think in that Watford game, we showed the two things that Emery is trying to work on. Because he mentioned that he wants us to be able to play with and without the ball. So in that game, we showed in the first goal, we showed that we can counter attack and we can press in the middle third of the pitch, press, quickly win it and counter attack and score from there efficiently. And then for the second goal, we showed that we can build up play, we can pass it out the back and then get the goal that we need to go against teams that are sitting deep, which is what we did for the second. But the main problem with the whole game, throughout the whole game, I kept thinking to myself that midfield three was lacking physically. And even apart from that, even doing the build-up play as well, you could see that the shape wasn't right. That's the reason why every time they pressed us doing our kickoffs, we could see that we were easily pressed and easily. We didn't have enough options to progress the ball because you can see Guendouzi and Xhaka standing too close to each other, and then Ozil and Ceballos were quite far. And the fullbacks were basically on top of the centre back. So there wasn't enough space. We didn't spread the pitch out properly. So it was very easy for Watford to press us there. And then on the counter-attack, we lacked mobility. We were not good enough physically. And they just kept counter-attacking us. But I think the main issue was that we lacked control of the game. And that made it even worse when we made a mistake. Socrates made that mistake.
Okay, you know what? Abdul, I'm just going to come back to you, mate. Our centre backs are bums. All right, I think that both of them are extremely awful. I don't think they complement us. I still don't know why we got David Luiz in the team. We wanted to solve our defensive issues, not make them worse. So you have to, tell me what was actually the thinking behind playing those two and the signing of David Luiz, because it doesn't make sense to me, at least, as an Arsenal fan, looking at our defense the way it is.
Well, I mean, I've never really been a big fan of Socrates. If Emery wants the team to play off the back, by all means do it. But with Socrates, I just don't think that he is good enough on the ball to be able to progress us up the pitch. While Luiz is, but if you're going to be buying David Luiz at the age of 32, you gotta be at least very competent defensively all across the pitch in order to make up for his lapses of concentration. So
Yeah.
I thought against Watford he actually played fine. It's just that with Luiz, like I don't really have anything against Luiz, but when he gave away that penalty, you sort of just thought to yourself, "Oh, here we go again." Like because he can have a completely fine game where he does nothing wrong, and then just flick a switch and bam, he gives away a penalty. And then the same thing with Socrates. He might be having an okay game, and then he'll give away a foul, or he'll give away the ball, and then the other team will score. It's annoying because both of them are quite experienced, but they still make the same sort of mistakes, and the system doesn't help them anyway. Because if you look at the second Watford goal for the penalty, Pereira was ripping through a pretty much non-existent midfield up until Luiz fouled him. So this same thing happened last season at Crystal Palace, where we were 2-1 up. We're thinking, okay, we'll ride it out, and then I think that Lacazette tried to chip it to Torreira, and then the ball got intercepted, and then 3 passes later, Zaha was 1v1 against Xhaka, and you know the rest.
I do.
Yeah. So it's just annoying when you see that this team is so susceptible to counterattacks, even when they're leading. So you're thinking, if we're chasing the game, how bad are we going to be? But then again, most of the time we're often rather conservative. So again, it just goes back to why are we being so conservative, and more importantly, why is that not helping our defense?
You know,
Like,
what I personally feel is that I when Unai Emery came in, I was fine with it because I wasn't really excited about it, the appointment, but I was fine with it. I thought that okay, the guy is a pragmatic coach that is going to steady the ship, and we're going to build a squad, and then we'll replace him. That was my opinion of it. Des, I'll ask you, um, what what even is Emery's playstyle? Because I I've seen the guy for over 16 months at the club, and I still can't figure out what he's trying to do on the pitch. Sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't. Under Arsene, we knew that we were good at attacking in certain aspects of the game, and we were awful defensively and didn't defend transitions well. What has Emery done to remedy that, or what is he trying to bring to the team?
Yeah, I think with Emery, sometimes a lot of the time people are looking for like philosophy. People are looking for things like, okay, this manager is a possession manager, a manager that likes to like play possession and dominate the opposition. And then they think, okay, this manager is very good at pressing, or like Simeone, he's a deep block manager, someone who can sit deep and then counterattack. But with managers like Allegri, and I'm not saying Emery is on the level of Allegri, but there are certain managers that it's not one specific thing that they want to do. They like to have like variation in their game, and so they can adapt to different things that happen in the game. And although Emery spoke about he wants to be the protagonist and all these things, in my opinion, his style is more to do with just being able to win the game if with the ball and without the ball, just to be able to have an effect in the game, even when we don't have the ball. That's the reason why when we have the ball and we want to dominate, we see him playing out the back. We see the team playing out the back, trying to progress the ball up the pitch and try to break teams down. But then you can also see at times when we don't have the ball, we're quick to counter attack as well. So he wants these two things to happen. The problem is that the main problem is that we're not able to control these games. That's that like what the biggest issue I have with Emery is that although he wants us to be adaptable to whatever situation happens during a game, the main problem I have is that we're not able to control these games. So whenever a mistake happens and the opposition build their confidence, then the game becomes end to end. And as soon as the game starts getting end to end, that's when you start seeing that our defenders are not that good, and that's when you start seeing that our midfield is not physically strong enough to deal with these end-to-end games. You see, like our midfield against Watford, we had Ozil, we had Ceballos, we had Guendouzi, we had Xhaka. That's not a midfield that can go end-to-end and sustain the physicality of a game. Like against Watford, where they have midfielders like Dukuri, who's going to keep going back and forth throughout the whole game. So when you lack control, that's when all these flaws come out. That's the main issue with him. It's not that he's not trying to implement these things. He's got his style, but he's not good enough to implement it properly. And then on top of that, we're lacking control. That's the reason why we get opened up like these in these games.
Okay, I get the idea that we're trying to implement some sort of a style, although I don't see it because, yeah, Emre is the fucking spawn of Satan, and the thing is that it gets really frustrating for some Arsenal fans to see us on the back foot against teams like Watford, and Brighton, and even I don't think even we were good against Newcastle either. So the all of the games that we started off, Abdul, this is for you. All of the games that we started off, um, do you think that we're always too suspect to counterattacks? We're always too open in the middle. Either it's from a resulting corner or teams combining and playing around us. We're too easily bypassed. What do you think is the reason behind that? Is it the midfield or the spaces that we leave behind?
Well, first of all, if you look at like the players who often play midfield, and even at fullback and up front and whatnot, these players need to be connected throughout the pitch, throughout the game. They need a system where they're getting a lot of the ball. Xhaka, if he's not getting the ball for large stretches of the game, he's not going to be active. Ceballos, if he's not getting the ball and getting nice little touches, he's going to disconnect. And I saw like this quote from Danny Alves. Like I also always remember, like he was saying he always passed the ball to Messi, and Guardiola used to say to him like, "Why you pass the ball to Messi all the time?" And he was saying because if Messi isn't getting the ball a lot, then he's just gonna disappear from the game. And that's obviously true. That's why Messi touches the ball like 100 times a game, because you want him to do that. And with the players that we have, like even with Ainsley, for instance, Ainsley's playing a right back. He needs to be getting the ball a lot in order for him to actually, be active. But Arsenal under Emery have been a team where off the ball, they will not be able to win the ball back and actually start counterattacks too quickly. So you see us having, you see us being out of possession for large stretches of the game. Like against Burnley, we actually controlled possession well against Burnley. The problem was that whenever we didn't have the ball, it was for too long, to the point where our players would lose focus, and then gaps would start to appear, and then that's when you truly see the lack of athleticism, the energy in the team perhaps isn't right. And for me, that could easily be remedied if you're really good in possession, to the point where we're keeping the ball very well. If you have 70% possession of the ball and you're not losing the ball too much, then Ozil will get 100 touches to the ball. Ceballos will get loads of touches to the ball, Xhaka, etc., etc. And that's the big problem. But the big problem is that we're letting the opposition have too much of the ball, and when they have a lot of the ball, they will take shots. Whereas when we have the ball, we don't take enough shots. So you see games like Burnley, for instance, in the second game, the home game, where we had 15 shots and they had 18. And although you think to yourself, all right, well, to be fair, Arsenal didn't play too badly, them having 18 shots just shows that we're not too active off the ball. So whenever Burnley have the ball, they're the ones that are pressing us. They're the ones that are actually putting pressure on us. And as a result, the team just switches off too much. Like even for the goal that Burnley scored in the first half, you saw that we actually were attacking on the other end, and then suddenly, 2 passes later, McNeil had the ball on the left-hand side, and he crossed it in, it got deflected, and then Barnes scored. Like, the whole team switched off. Like Ceballos, he switched off. McNeil went past him. Luis slightly switched off, but I wouldn't blame him for that. And then it just exacerbates. The issue gets worse and worse, and then you're just hoping that the team either becomes good enough to play off the ball, or they suddenly become good enough on the ball to negate that issue off the ball.
Yeah,
So,
makes sense.
yeah.
But see, the problem is that we're not good on the ball, we're not good off the ball. So we're basically in limbo right now. Honestly, we're
Precisely,
not
yeah.
good. Yeah, we're not good on the ball and we're not good off it. We're in limbo right now. Des pointed out that Neville and Carragher said something about us playing out the back, and he said something like, the top teams in the league are doing it, and you should not be afraid of doing it, even if you make mistakes. But we were too predictable. Des, what do you think about that? Should we really stop playing out from the back in most situations, or are Socrates and Luis just too fucking stupid?
No, I don't think we should stop playing at the back, because even if you see after the game, Emery, when they asked Emery why was he playing like that, he said basically the reason I'm playing like this is because if they press us this high, as soon as we get past this press, we can attack them 3v3 at the back, and that makes sense because when you build up slowly and when you can beat the press and then you have an advantage up front, that's the main thing. I don't think the problem is building at the back. The problem with us is our shape sometimes is dictated by the players that are on the pitch. That's the main issue. Because, like, Emery doesn't let his ways dictate what's happening. When he plays Xhaka and Guendouzi together, they both end up deep, and then we end up playing at the back with 2 in midfield, with 2 centre mids and then 2 centre backs. So then it's square and it's not spread out properly. But then when it's Guendouzi and Willock and Ceballos, like against Burnley, then the pitch is spread out a bit more because you have Guendouzi waiting deep. You have Willock pushing the other midfield backwards because he's waiting in the right half space. Then you've got Ceballos waiting on the left side as well. And the whole pitch is spread out. So they can't really compact and press you properly because you're spread around the pitch. But against Watford, because we had Xhaka and Guendouzi, they were too square on the pitch. That was the problem there. So it's not really a problem of building up. It's a problem of is that Emery he's not disciplined in his position. That's the main thing. He needs to be able to tell them that regardless of who's playing or who's been selected, they have to stand in these specific positions. Just like how Pep demands that whoever's playing here has to stand here. If you look at the way Pep plays with the 3 centre backs and the 2 centre mids, the full backs are in, but you've got Walker staying at right centre back. Then you've got the 2 centre backs there. Then you've got the left back waiting on the other side as well. So then he has 3 at the back and 2 in front of them, and then they build up with that 3-2. So it's 5 players in build up, and the other 5 are ahead of the opposition's midfield. That's how you stretch teams and make sure that they can't just stand on top of you and press you. But we don't do that, and when we do them, it's because of specific players who prefer to play this way, and it's not because Emery is demanding and they play a certain way. That's the main problem with the whole passing at the back.
So he's not basically demanding them that they play this specific way. They're just doing it for the sake of it. Is that what you're saying?
It's not. Yeah, it's not so much like demand. It's like you have to be like, because players are humans. They have their level of concentration. They have how they want to play. You know, like they have their own preferences and stuff like that. So you have to keep demanding and keep making sure they play a certain way. If you see that Guendouzi and Xhaka both want to receive, both want to be the first person to receive the ball, because it's clear that Guendouzi wants to be the first one to receive the ball. He's always waiting there. And when Xhaka is not on the pitch, he's the one who wants to receive first. And Xhaka, you can see he also wants to receive first. So if you're not able to tell the other one to receive a little bit higher than the other, then you have to play just one out of 2. I already said that our midfield 3 should be one of Xhaka and Guendouzi, one of Torreira and Willock, and one of Ceballos and Ozil. The reason being is not just because if it was a different manager, he would be able to get Xhaka, Guendouzi, and Ceballos to receive in the right way. But because Emery is not able to do that, I feel like once you play that 3, it gives us both a player in the first phase, it gives us a player with physicality in Torreira and Willock, then they give us the creativity with Ozil and Ceballos. And once you have those 3, their preferences, you see how they'll line up on the pitch, and then it'll be better for us to build at the back properly. That's why I feel like that should be our main thing. But the thing with Emery is I don't understand why he's not disciplined with his things, which he should be.
He's really conservative, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's not strict. That's the main thing. He's not as strict with the positioning as other managers.
Abdul, what do you think about his protagonists playing like they're bloody Elche in La Liga? They're not, I'm serious. They're not really, they don't grip the game by the scruff of the neck. I don't really specifically remember over the past 16 months where we said, okay, I know Arsenal are playing at home at the Emirates and they're going to absolutely blow this team away like it was under Arsene. Even a few games I was confident that we were going to do that at least once a season. But right now, I don't see that happening. Every game looks like a chore. Every game looks like we're going to be having a fight. And it puzzles me because some of the teams that come to the Emirates and they look us right in the eye and they tell you, this may be your home, but you're still our bitch. That's basically what they're telling us. And we bent over and take it up the arse. Why does Emery constantly feel the need to feed this narrative? And how do you think that we can get out of this?
I don't think it's ever gonna be I don't think they'll ever under Emery. I don't think we'll ever get a game whereby we're fully the team that's mainly dominant and controlling of the game. I don't think that will ever happen because the way he coaches the team, his pressing is not good enough consistently over. Because if you look at Man City and Liverpool, the reason why they're able to be so dominant and have this control is because their pressing is so consistent throughout the game, throughout 90 minutes, so they can continuously keep hold of the opposition and force them back by continuously winning the ball back over and over and over again. But we lack that ability to win the ball again. So once we lost the ball, it takes a while for us to get the ball back. And then you have the opposition creating chances, getting more shots and making all these things happening. But if our pressing was good enough, we'll be able to control the game better.
Really help us when most of the time we're on the back foot. I don't really like us on the back foot, specifically against teams that we know we're better. That's something that Emery's protagonists don't help. Abdul, I know you hate the word protagonists, so I'm gonna let you rant away on this and maybe give us a bit of an insight on what we should do to remedy this.
Do you want me to answer? Because the main thing with that was like I said already, I don't feel like he's going to change on the Emery. Like I've said, long term, I don't feel Emery is going to be the coach for us because I don't think he can implement some a style that will allow us to control a game. Our games will always be end to end, just simply because of the lack of control. If you look at the league, if you look at West Ham today, they're playing up front. They've got Yarmolenko, they've got Felipe Anderson, they've got Lanzini, they've got Haller. All these teams, these are mid-table teams with good offensive players. If you're not able to press and keep this team back and control the game, if you let them have the ball for a long period of time, they're going to create something and they're going to create chances. The Premier League is not filled with bad players. You look at Everton, they've got a good attack. You look at Norwich. Even Norwich, they just promoted. They've got a good front four. All these teams, they've all got a good attack. So once you can't press them and keep them back and gain control over the game and make them stay back, then they're gonna create chances. That's just what it is, and that's what Emery is not able to do. That's what he's just not able to do. Unless he can do that, we're never gonna be able to control games, and our games will always be end to end.
Yeah, that's something that I'm not really a big fan of, because I like us when we dominated games. It was fun, to be honest. I like the way that the Emirates was a fortress and teams wouldn't even dare get out of their half against us, because we were just so dominating when Arsene was at his peak. Anyways, so I'm just gonna say a few words myself on the manager. I think he's a bum, and I've supported the guy enough, and I don't think that he's the guy to lead us forward. And I wouldn't blink an eye if the club sacked him tomorrow. But we see him as someone transitional. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think he is. His contract is up at the end of the season, so I don't think we're going to give him a new one.
Yeah, it's over. But I see him being bailed out by Lacazette and Aubameyang over the course of the past season. Do you think that's going to continue going forward if we're going to reach top four?
Yeah, I think Aubameyang, like I said, will be able to do it, and Nicolas Pepe as well. I think he should also start scoring very soon as well. So once we have that, I feel like we have enough to make the top four. Even though we shouldn't have to struggle to make it, but I feel like we're gonna make it. We have enough to make it.
Yeah, I feel the same. And okay, guys, let's just go towards the elephant in the room. We know it's there, and we're all giddy about it. And I'm going to point it out: Lucas Torreira. I personally feel Emery doesn't like him, and it worries me, because right now he's our best ball winner, and he is the only guy I trust in defensive actions to help us out at the back. And he's the guy that I'd want sitting for us, or at least alongside Grant Xhaka, if he is the one receiving the ball. But due to the way that Guendouzi is playing, he spends a lot of time outside. He spends a lot of time outside, and that makes me worry. Do you think that Emery's particular, alienation of Torreira is a good thing or a bad thing going forward?
But I was gonna say, like, last season I think Torreira had like a very specific role where like, he was playing next to Xhaka, where he would push on at times, but mainly to win the ball high up and then to distribute it to other players. And of course, we all were very happy with these defensive performances, especially in big games. Against Napoli at home, Spurs at home.
He was fantastic at
Liverpool at home, Fulham away, Liverpool at home, Chelsea at home. Like, he was really good in those games. And honestly, in the first half of the season, I thought he was pretty immaculate. It's just like in the second half of the season, he burned out, and we all said, okay, fair enough. But in this season, I'm just starting to see Emery starting to push him upfield a bit more. Like, when he came on against Burnley, you were thinking, okay, he's going to shot up the midfield. And then he took a shot in the box. And I was just like, oh, like, that doesn't seem right. And then even against Spurs, I saw him pushing like forward and linking up with Lacazette a few times. I was thinking to myself, this doesn't seem right, because he wasn't doing this last season. So it has to be an instruction. But on the other hand, like, Torreira, he's a very, very, very good player, but he's just not good going forward. Like, Guendouzi, at least he can pick pass, he can dribble very well. Torreira can't do that to a high level. He needs to be in a deeper position. And when you see him playing as a 6 at Sampdoria and Uruguay, two different teams, completely different teams, you're thinking, why aren't we playing him there? And it just goes back to Emery probably just doesn't fancy him there. Maybe he doesn't think that he's physical enough for that position, which, I mean, I would disagree. But it's just very confusing, really. Like,
there were rumors that Emery wanted Nzonzi, and that scares the shit out of me. And I'm so glad that the guy isn't the one leading the rebuild of the club. Honestly.
imagine Flacco and Nzonzi in a pivot, bro.
Oh
But
my
at
I
some
God.
would.
point, at some point during his career, I thought Nzonzi was actually quite good as a six, as the pivot in the defensive mid. But the
Yeah,
thing with but the thing with Torreira is, I feel like I don't think Emery rates him as a player that they can receive the first pass. It's the same thing with Sarri and Kante, why he played Jorginho there and then made Kante play box to box. I think it's the same thing with Emery. I don't think he rates him as that play in the pivot. And when he plays on the right, I feel that's by design as well. I think Emery wants him to, when he's on the right, to go to attack the channels as well and get
yeah,
behind on that side. And then we have Ceballos on the other side or Guendouzi on the other side to also get behind as well. But that's the reason I was a bit optimistic about that, because I felt like Emery was moving towards a 4-3-3, because we saw like against Tottenham, we saw Xhaka playing as the six. Then we saw Torreira and Torreira and Guendouzi both attacking the channels. And that's the kind of shape I like to see in the midfield if we have it like that. But like you said, Torreira doesn't have enough quality offensively. He just doesn't. He can't really, like, if you look at Kante, for example. At least Kante is a very good dribbler on the ball, so he hasn't got the passing in the final third, but he can still dribble. He can bypass players. Torreira doesn't really have that. The majority of the things he does in the final third when he gets there is all off the ball. It's just the off the ball runs that he makes. Those are the only things he does in the final third. But on the ball, he doesn't really have much. He doesn't really have much to offer. So I don't feel he needs to be playing there. In my opinion, I think he can play as the six. I don't think he needs to be the first passer. And even though, because we've got David Lewis at the back, we don't really need Shaka to be the first passer. David Lewis can be that guy at the back to pass it, and Torreira can be the one just to drop back in. You can make it free. You can have Torreira drop between David Lewis and Socrates, and then you can have Socrates be the main guy building. Or you can also have Torreira drop in on the left of David Lewis instead, and David Lewis will be in the middle, just like how he was under Conte, where he played in the three at the back, and he was the main one building out the back. That's just how it
Yeah.
is. But, but I
yeah.
don't, but I don't think Emery has the creativity to make these things happen.
Yeah, imagination is just something that I feel this team really lacks. Just that, something wacky yet brilliant. And even like I felt under Arsenal, there would always be this one weird thing that he would do that would work. Like, say, maybe he would put Walker up front, and we're thinking, why is he doing that? But then, I remember that game against United. Everyone I'm sure remembers that, the 3-0 back in 2015, where he played Walker up front, and it was a masterstroke.
Mm.
I don't really think Emery does something like that, where he'll play somebody in a position and it's a complete masterstroke. So and then obviously I'm thinking to myself, well, you don't do that normally. So then when you play Torreira out of position, I don't have confidence that it's going to work. And when it doesn't work, then I don't have confidence that your next experiment will work as well. So it's just a constant, endless cycle of will this work? No. Will this one work? No. Will this one work? No. And it's just very confusing, really. That's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, it is. But Abdul and Des, I'm just gonna put this question out to both of you simultaneously. You can answer however you like.
Mm.
Um, as the league's gone on for the past 2, 3 seasons, I've noticed that a lot of the teams aren't really building with a predominant ball player in the middle. You probably noticed this too. Um,
Mm.
Spurs don't really have someone of that ilk that maybe Rodri is, or someone that is predominantly known to be a great ball player, a proper six like Jorginho and Rodri are. Um, do you think that maybe we need to go towards that model after slowly phasing Xhaka out of the team? Or do we really need a ball playing centre mid in the middle of the park to progress the ball further? Or we can do this another way.
Do
Mm.
you want to go first, Des?
All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
go
I
on.
felt like I felt like we were doing that when we signed Torreira. I felt like that was the whole plan, going away from trying to use Arteta and Xhaka and going towards Torreira after Coquelin. I felt like that was the idea, and that's where we're going. Because if you look at Liverpool, they've got Fabinho in there. It's not that he's a bad passer, but he's not Jorginho. He's not like players like that. He's not Xhaka and stuff like that. And if you look at Real Madrid when they won the Champions League, they had Casemiro in there. I think it's more important nowadays when you look at teams that are counter-attacking very fast. There's a lot of transition in the game. I think you need to have physical players in there. And if you want, and if there's a position where you can have that physicality, it's best to have it in that six, and then so you can have the creativity in the other two center positions. If you're playing 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, it makes more sense to have it as the six, so the player has more legs to get back and get forward compared to players like Shaq and Jorginho who don't really have that defensive sense. And if you look at Liverpool, they've got Fabinho. If you look at Man City, before Rodri, they had Fernandinho as well. And if you look at Tottenham, they had Wanyama, Eric Dyer. The whole thing is they've all got centre backs that can build at the back as well. Like Liverpool, they've got Matip and they've got Van Dijk who can pass out. So it's not necessary to have that singular person being the one making the most passes. You can have your centre backs playing the pass, and then he also brings the opposition towards you. And the more the opposition comes towards you, then the more it opens up space behind them. So then it's either they're going to press your centre back, or they give you space, and then you can play out properly. So I don't think you really have to have that player. I think it's more important to have the defensive solidity there than to have a passer in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Abdul, what about you?
I mean, first of all, I would say it depends mainly on the kind of team that you are. So I think with Guardiola, for instance, especially in Champions League games, I feel that he probably would feel a lot safer with Rodri because he wants to have that extra control, the extra security where you have your six and your centre backs all being quite comfortable on the ball and playing it out. But I think and this goes back to when Pep joined Bayern, so before City, like Pep, he knew straight away that the Bundesliga, every team's going to hit them on a break, and every team's really quick on the counter. Whereas in La Liga, back when Pep was at Barcelona, there weren't many transition-based teams. There's only really Real Madrid and a few I think Valencia were at the time. I'm not entirely sure, and he's had to adapt and basically say, all right, well, I need my team to be able to stave off counterattacks, and then that's why he's got his fullbacks, inverted all the time. Yeah, um, and it works. It definitely works. But I feel that nowadays more and more teams are going to press you centrally and really force you to pass that wide. And obviously, when you pass that wide to your fullbacks, they barely have any avenue to go forward. So I do feel that for a six nowadays, it's most important for them to not only to break up play, but to also obviously they have to be able to pass the ball out. That's a prerequisite. But being the typical Xhaka / Jorginho type, where they may not be the most agile, but they will play really nice passes. I don't. Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's very important. Like I don't think it's essential. Like with Busquets and such, those kind of midfielders. Although Busquets, of course, is a legend, but um, I do feel that when you have your centre backs and your goalkeepers being adept on the ball, if you have a guy like Leno who can chip it on either foot, you have Luis who can pass the ball really well, it becomes it's easy for them to play out because they've got the whole pitch to look at. Whereas if you're a six, perhaps the most important thing is being able to turn with your back to goal. Because Xhaka, whenever he gets the ball, his back will be facing the opposition goal. So he needs to be able to turn under pressure. He needs to be able to play that pass as well as beat the press.
Yeah, that's the main.
That's the main thing with Xhaka. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to mention about Xhaka. The thing is, I feel like you said, it's more important to have the player there that's able to release the ball quickly and change directions quickly than it is just to have a player in there that can just play the pass. I think that's more important, that they're agile so they can receive from every angle and they can quickly release the ball. If you look at Fernandinho, he's not he's not Pirlo or Busquets or something like that. He doesn't play like amazing passes, but he's able to change directions quickly. And he's able to change direction. He can receive under pressure. Someone like Xhaka, he can't really receive under pressure, and he doesn't turn quick enough because he's not agile.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his fault. It's just the way he is. Like that's his style of play, and I accept that. Yeah, I mean, I would never hate Xhaka for being immobile or not being able to turn quickly. Although, obviously, we all are quite upset when he makes dumb errors like the one against Spurs. But yeah, with Granit, like I think he's just probably come at the wrong time. If he came like 5 to 10 years earlier, I think everyone would love him. It's just that nowadays I think you just need to have a more flexible midfield. Like Des was saying earlier about I thought the Burnley game we didn't play particularly well, but I thought our midfield looked quite flexible and quite interchangeable. Like Willock and Tobias were swapping roles, and I could see that's what Emery wants from his team. Although, and I remember one chance, the Guendouzi shot in the first half. I think Leno or Socrates passed the ball into Willock, and then he flicked it into Guendouzi, and Guendouzi did a 1-2 with him, and then Willock did a nice pass into Tobias, and then literally it was like the whole of the Burnley attack plus their like midfield was completely bypassed, and then Ceballos has got like acres of space to go into, and if it was a bit quicker, like honestly, we probably would have scored there. So like I really do like it when we do stuff like that, and I remember we were doing that against Liverpool at home last season, where I thought our build-up play was probably the best it's ever been. Like I remember in that game, there was a lot of occasions, and I even did like a video on it. Shameless plug, where Liverpool were a bit cautious to press us, so we were just passing the ball very slowly. And then whenever they did press us, we just chip it over the front three. Xhaka Torreira would get the ball, they get into Ozil. Like 5 seconds later, Kolasinac has the ball cross. Like it was just a rinse and repeat, and they couldn't handle that in the first half. And I just think to myself, if we were doing that more often, I would probably say, you know what, okay, I can accept that.
Yeah.
I think this is something we can build towards. This is very promising, but in a way, it's sort of regressed since then. And then, of course, that's the real issue. So I don't know, like, but yeah, actually, I kind of sidetracked a bit, but yeah, but going back to deep line midfielders, I think it's still essential to be able to pass the ball, to be able to distribute it very quickly. It's just that mobility, being able to evade the press, being able to just play quickly, right off your first touch. Those are probably more important than being able to switch play, because I do feel that your centre backs will switch play more often than not. Like even Van Dijk, he's not an amazing passer. He's a good passer.
He is.
Yeah, but he's a very good passer. But compared to Matip was a more flamboyant passer, should you say? He's a ball carrier in that defense. Even Gomez as well. But Van Dijk, one thing he's very good at is he can switch play really well. So then when he can do it under less pressure, you then think to yourself, okay, well, do we really need Fabinho to do that? And then
Yeah,
of course,
because our centre-backs
yeah, exactly, yeah. Like if Lewis can do it, I'm not saying Xhaka is obsolete. That's definitely not true. But I definitely do think that if you have Xhaka, the risk and the reward is always going to be on your mind. But perhaps the reward isn't as as amazing as it would have been a few years ago. So
yeah. Okay, so I already know that I'm basically sandwiched between two Aubameyang fanboys over here. And Lacazette fan, by the way. Sorry, lads. So
hey, we like Laka too. I mean, come on.
I like this as well.
No, not even close to, not even close to how much I like the guy. The guy is the definition of clutch. But I see why you guys coming from with Aubameyang playing in the center. It's criminal to have a forward like him out wide. I understand that, but we need all three of our forwards on the pitch. Like I said, Aubameyang and Pepe. We need all three of them on the pitch. So, Des, I'll ask you this. How do you think that we can integrate those three on the pitch while maintaining some form of balance to the side?
I think the way to do it is the 4-3-3. If we have just like how we tried it in the last game. If you have Aubameyang on the left, you got Lacazette up front, you got Pepe on the right. But the main thing is, if we had a bit more control in the game, then Aubameyang will be constantly high off the pitch. Then Aubameyang, all he has to do is continuously play centrally. But when we keep going up and down in transition, end to end, that's when you're going to get Aubameyang too far away from goal. I don't think it's a problem for Aubameyang to play on the left. If you look at Barcelona, when they had Henry playing on the left, or they had David Villa playing on the left as well, it wasn't an issue because they dominated the game. Because they're constantly in the opposition's half. David Villa, although playing on the left, he's not actually standing in left wing. On the left was Alba, or before that Abidal, and then he was constantly central because they dominate. But because we're not dominating, then it becomes an issue. If you look at Liverpool, Mane plays wide, but a lot of the time he's central because they're dominating the game. Salah starts wide, but he's central because they're dominating. That's just the main thing. As long as you can dominate a game and you can have control, it doesn't really matter where the player starts, where his starting position is, because Aubameyang has good movement. But as for now, I think Aubameyang has to play on the left because we don't have another option off the bench. But long term, I think Aubameyang should. But I'm saying long term, Aubameyang is getting old, so obviously just in the next season, I thought we should sign a left winger so Aubameyang can play centrally, and then that player will replace Lacazette.
Yeah, but then then I'll go on a huge tantrum and upload a 1 hour video on why Lagardère is the greatest thing that's ever happened to this club. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, that won't be pretty. But Abdul, the same thing with you. Do you agree with what Des said? Because I was leaning towards having a back three to take advantage of the back of PAL or ALP or whatever you guys want to call it.
I mean, for like a good few weeks, I was saying, okay, I just don't like Bobby out wide, and I do feel that long term obviously long term we have to we cannot play him out wide. It's absolutely it's not in the question at all. But for this season, I do feel play all three. I think that's our best chance of getting top four. I think that's our best chance of having like a really threatening attack, because if you have all three on the pitch, defenders are going to be afraid. They'll draw back a little bit. They're not going to play a high line with Pepe and Aubameyang in the same team, obviously not. So, like, and that's absolutely fine. The only thing is more so that if you look back, say when Walcott was on the team, and Walcott's a different player to Orba, they're both good, but good in different things. Whenever Theo was in the team, we probably build on the left side and then work it onto the right side, and then he will make an inside run and we will pick it out.
Yeah.
Under Emery, we don't really do that. Like, Orba will probably stay really high and wide during build-up, or he will be very central, so he can't really make that inside to out run. So then we basically have nobody on the left side besides Kolasinac. And then if he's not, if he's deep, during build-up, then we need Aubameyang out wide, and then obviously you see the problem. So I think the main issue is just more so as we're not good enough in possession to have three high attacking players in the team. So, like with Aubameyang and Pepe, they'll both be looking to go in behind. Obviously, Pepe is more secure on the ball, and he's a winger, a natural winger, so it's perfectly fine for him. But with Orba, he's not as secure on the ball, and we accept that because he's a world-class footballer. So I think for now we just need to find a way to be able to work it into Bamia. Like even for last season against Leicester, when Orba scored the brace off the bench, what did we do? We worked it onto the right, and then we played it into Bellerin, and then he played it into Aubameyang. Yeah, exactly. And then for the second goal, we working it down the right. Ozil got in behind. He played it to Aubameyang goal. Like we can definitely do moments like that. Like Aubameyang can still score out wide. Like, that's not the issue. It's more so as can we play well enough to justify having him out wide? That is the real big question. Not whether it'll work, because it definitely can work. Like there definitely will be games where we'll score 3 goals and win like 3-1 with all 3 players scoring. Like that could definitely happen. It's more so as can we do it? Can we do that consistently over the course of the season, or are we just gonna like last season? We're basically depending on Aubameyang, like I said, to score. Like not even to necessarily create, just to score. So this season, I don't want that. I want a real cohesive style of play that gets them into the final third, and then they work their magic. Not necessarily us being too deep like we were yesterday, and then
they have to pull basically a rabbit out of the hat. Yeah,
it's like essentially, yeah. And Oba's not good. People say Oba needs service, but the thing is that he doesn't get much service, and he still scores. Like yesterday, he had 3 shots, 1 was blocked, and 2 were goals. Like. There's very few strikers in the world that will do that pretty much every single week in, week out. Like, the guy does not have any droughts. Even when he's playing out wide, he doesn't really have any droughts. Like, he will have a 3-game drought at best. And that's literally... And also, he's literally never had, like, a 4 or 5-game drought. Never. So, this guy's going to score, like, pretty much every single week.
Yeah,
so
he's deadly.
The plan... Yeah, exactly. The plan is just, how do you maximize that? And are we going to be a team where we work it from left to right and then play it into Aubameyang a lot? Because like I definitely think that could definitely work. Like, or maybe we work it from the left and then we move it on to Pepe on the right, because obviously Pepe loves to make a runner behind as well. It's just all about just maximizing their threats rather than hoping that it works.
Hoping that they work their magic, right?
Yes, essentially, yeah. Like
okay.
How many chances did Oba get, man? Like,
I'm not sure.
Like 2. No, actually, yesterday he only got 2 chances really. So on another for a team like City, God, man, like he'll be getting 3 chances a game.
And
his movement is really good.
Mhm. Even at wide, his
Okay,
movement is still excellent.
lads, you were talking about the Leicester game last season about Aubameyang, and I'm basically in tears right now because I honestly really miss Bellerin, and
Yeah.
I really miss Bellerin. You guys have no idea how much he impacts how we play, specifically under Unai Emery, and
Yeah,
it
yeah. I
makes it
like
so
Maitland Niles as well.
difficult. It makes it really difficult for me personally to get to Maitland Niles, especially the kind of game that he had against Watford. He was awful.
Mm.
Um, what do you think that having all three of Bellerin, Tierney, and Holding in place of the dunderheads that we have at the back is gonna influence going forward? Des?
Yeah, I like Maitland Niles. I think he's more technical than Bellerin. But the difference with Bellerin is that he's quick and he wants to get forward and he constantly offers width. And I think if you're playing someone like Nicolas Pepe, I think it makes more sense to have someone like Bellerin. Although you can rotate between the two because Niles can also link up with Pepe. But I think Bellerin might make more of a difference because Pepe is good on the ball. He can keep the ball, so he doesn't really need the right back who's good on the ball as well. He needs the right back who can also bump past him and create more space for him, which is Bellerin. Bellerin is able to continuously give him width, which will make Pepe more dangerous because then it allows him to play more central, play inside, and he takes away one of the fullbacks. Then it becomes Pepe versus the left centre back instead. Then he's like 1v1 situation because the left back has to focus on Bellerin, and because Bellerin is fast, he can keep doing that, and his stamina he's got a really good engine, so he can keep doing that all game. Meanwhile, with Tierney on the left hand side, if he continuously does what Bellerin is doing as well, if he keeps getting forward all the time, then he allows Aubameyang to play centrally. So I think we're going to improve a lot when those two players come back. I think if you look at Niles, for example, because he was a midfielder before, that's the reason why he plays like that. He plays like a midfielder. He doesn't always offer that width. Although he does do it, but he doesn't always do it. He likes to play behind the ball at times. You see him getting the ball and linking up with the midfielders, passing inside or dribbling inside and stuff like that. He's not continuously going wide, just like Bellerin. Even though I feel like he has a better end product than Bellerin, but just because Bellerin has that width, that constant running behind like Robertson for Liverpool, just because he can
Yeah.
do that, I think that would help us. Him, Bellerin and Tierney coming back would help us a lot. I think that would also help the front three. The way we're saying that Aubameyang is too wide or Pepe is too wide, when Bellerin and Tierney comes back, I think that will help us. I don't like if you think about it, we're only 5 games in, we haven't even played our best team. So I think Bellerin and Tierney will improve us. Plus that front three. Plus we need to find a good balance in our midfield. And then in terms of Holding, like I like Holding, but I don't think we should put too much pressure on him thinking he's going to save us. I mean, the main person I'm waiting for is Saliba and a partner
Yeah,
for
I
him.
am.
Yeah.
My goodness, he is an incredible centre back prospect. The guy is a monster at 18. And the things that he did at Saint Etienne in just 16 games,
Mm.
uh, it basically got cheapskates like us to spend 30 million on an 18-year-old. You can imagine what kind of a player he is.
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel like I feel like at that height as well, it's going to be a big difference compared to what we've seen all these years.
But see, Des, he's not really a problem solver. Just, it's the same with Holding. People rate Holding as this great savior of our defense. He's not that. He is
Mm.
a well-rounded defender that is 7 out of 10 or 6.5 out of 10 every single game, and he won't, lose his bloody mind basically. So
Yeah.
having defenders that can, actually defend is in my opinion, step up. And if Socrates keeps on playing the way he is, I think it'd be fair to give Chambers a chance. No.
Chambers for me, I don't really like Chambers like that. I don't think I think he lacks a lot physically, and I mean he doesn't make these big mistakes. That's the reason why people don't make fun of him because he doesn't make big mistakes, but he also doesn't make great defensive situations. He doesn't solve a lot of situations defensively.
Yeah, I feel you, but I'm desperate. So what can you do? Okay. Let's two more questions. The first is that we got rid of Alex Iwobi this summer for about 40 million, and it was a bittersweet moment personally for me because I really like the kid, and I thought that he was an important and integral part of the side. Abdul, you saw Nelson against Watford, and what did you think Does he still need time to develop, or was that just a one-off pertaining to the situation of the game?
A bit of both, actually. The game we played against Watford, when Nelson came on, although I wanted him to come on, it's only because like Ozil and Sabai as well. I stated, I know Sabai came off earlier, but he and Ozil were getting bypassed a lot in the second half. It's not their fault. It's just, but that's just how it was. And I was hoping that maybe if he puts on Nelson, then he can push him further upfield, and then we would have some sort of counter-attacking approach. But obviously, the problem was he was still too deep even when he came on. So, like, I remember he started with like one counter-attack around like the 85th minute or something like that, and then he had no options to pass to, so he had to pass backwards, and he carried the ball like 20 yards on field, and then he just had to pass back, which I suppose just summed up the second half for us. And
Yeah,
exactly, yeah, he just couldn't do much in that game, and I don't really blame him. But I think the problem is that people are saying, "Oh, he needs to take his chance now. He needs to do this now." Like the thing is, you can't just expect this kid to come off the bench against Watford and save us. Like I'm not saying he can't do it. Obviously, he could. Like he could definitely come off the bench and score worldy. Like Reece has got real superb talent, but the thing is that players develop at different times. Like it will be at 19. He was starting alongside Özil, Alexis, Cazorla, etc., etc. And that doesn't mean he'll always be a starter at from 19 to 29. Like players, people don't understand that players develop at different times. Nelson, he may be raw at 19, so he might be, a starter at 21. You can't just expect everything to work out in one day. But yeah, that's why I was upset with selling Iwobi, because we don't really have that kind of cover out wide when the big three or Balaka Pepe are not available. So because of that, I mean, I know a lot of people are telling me, oh well, Nelson, Saka, and Martinelli are going to play games. Those three, they're not going to play 15 to 20 league games combined. I'm telling you right now, they won't start 15 league games combined. Those three combined, they're not
yeah.
going to. And I'm just that's the reality of it. Like I'm not saying these guys can't do it. Like I think Nelson is a superb talent. I think Saka's very good. I like what I saw from Martinelli in pre-season. But these guys are not going to be playing in Premier League games at Watford, at Crystal Palace, etc., where we might need an extra option, or maybe in games where maybe Aubameyang's tired, or Lacazette's tired, or Lacazette's injured right now. Like in games like this, you can't just expect them just to play at a Premier League level just yet. If they do it, great. But
If they
I'm not
don't,
gonna.
that
Yeah, exactly. Like it will be. Say what you want about it, will be, but the guy was playing like starting 15 to 25 league games per season. That is underrated. You need to score players that know the club and you know that they will deliver at least like consistent Premier League appearances. At least that they will start games. At least they will come off the game. Come off the bench. Like it will be at least had that. Even Mkhitaryan had that, and I don't like Mkhitaryan. So it's just like
uh,
if you offload Iwobi and Mkhitaryan, and then you're saying to Nelson, okay, you're gonna come on. Like you you're basically hoping that he's ready right now, and if he's not, well, I mean,
yeah,
sucks to be you, innit?
it really puts Nelson in a really difficult position. Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
I think our fans are too
Des,
harsh on him, way too harsh on him.
it is, but see, I have this mindset that we bought Pepe in uh, to be our star man out wide, to be our Alexa's replacement, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
yeah, basically. So I personally feel that he will thrive. He is an exceptional talent. Des, what do you think about his game so far? Do you really think that he's underwhelmed, or there's more to come from him?
Nah, Nicholas Pepe, I think a lot of people expecting goals immediately and they're starting to make fun because he's not scoring. I'm not too concerned about his goals. This is a guy who 1v1, he's been able to beat every defender that he's come against. It's not even been difficult for him. What in 1v1 situations, he's able to create shots for himself. He's been able to make a lot of passes into the box. He's been able to go past fullbacks with ease. He's even better than I thought technically because he's been able to keep the ball in the final third. Just his footwork is just too good. He can manipulate the ball in so many ways. He's just like he's a lot better than I thought. I thought he was just a player, just an outlet. But to me, I thought his potential was something like, like Salah, like more of a goal scorer and outlet. But to me, I see his ceiling more as something like Sadio Mane, a player who can get in behind, a player who can retain the ball, a player who can play make, a player who can create his own shots. That's what I thought of Pepe. I think he's a top player. All we need is time. He will start scoring, but I'm not too concerned about that. He's already had a great start to the season already, in my opinion.
Yeah, he has, and he's exciting me with every game. And and whenever I'm sad, I just overlook the fact that he dribbled past Van Dijk, and that's basically a goal, in my opinion. So, yeah. So that's the big question. Everybody wants to know. Everybody's fuming. Everybody's angry. Everybody's pissed off. Um, Unai Emery. What do you guys think that are his problems relevant to the club and his approach to different games? We'll all give our takes slowly, but Abdul, we'll start with you. What is the thing that really irks you about him, and why you think that he isn't the guy to lead us forward going forward?
Is Abdul there?
He's not here. I think he bolted. Yeah.
His connection.
Now?
Hey, Abdul, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Did you hear the question?
Yes. No, I heard the question. I heard it fine. Well, with Emery, so I think the problem is more so that I don't think he learns from his own mistakes. I don't think he's someone who will look at things going wrong in the match and he will rectify it next week. Um, I just think it's more so that his approach to matches, I think, is not necessarily negative, but I think it's cautious to the point where it's almost like, he always talks about we need to give respect to this team. We need to give respect to this team as well. But we can't seem to do that properly. Like, obviously, I would rather us be dominate possession, creating chances, just pinning the opposition back. But if we can't do that, at least if you don't want if you're not really aiming us to be that kind of team, at least be some sort of, I don't know, like B-Tech Simeone or a B-Tech Conte or a B-Tech Allegri or something, like just a manager who I feel like with Simeone, right? I hate Atletico Madrid. Well, to watch them play, and I have nothing against the club or Simeone, but I don't like to watch Atletico Madrid play, mainly because in every game that Atletico have, there's very few chances for either teams. Like Atletico will have like 6 shots in the game. The others will have like 4 shots in the game. They win 1-0. I personally don't gravitate towards that kind of football, but I would take that because at least that's something over being very cautious against Watford, against Palace, against Leicester, etc., but not being solid. So my problem is he just does not learn from his mistakes. Like, he does not stick to what he knows, and then when things go wrong, he's not really a problem solver. He panics quite easy. Like I remember against Watford last season. Away from home, Deeney got sent off. We were 1-0 up due to that freak goal from Aubameyang, and like for the rest of the game, it felt like we had a man sent off instead of them.
Yeah.
Like it just like I was just thinking to myself, why aren't we just passing the ball around? Like they've got one less man than us. How are we not dominating possession? And then you just go back to him. He's cautious. He's not a bold manager. He's a cautious manager. He's a not necessarily defensive minded manager, but he's actually, I suppose he is defensive minded in a way. But he's a defensive minded manager who can't get his team to defend. But he's also wanted to be a possession based manager who can't get his team to play out from the back. So he's just not tweaking anything and saying, you know what, this isn't working. Let's try it this way. Like I remember with Brendan Rodgers, like for instance, he's the complete opposite. Where if something goes wrong, he'll just try something else, and if it doesn't go right, he'll try something else again. Like, and he might screw up 3 times, but on the 4th time it might work. With Unai, he will just try the same thing over and over again, hoping it works. And then instead of fixing the issue, he'll maybe change just the formation or where the players are on the pitch. But like anybody can pick a formation now. What's important is the approach to the game, how your team plays in possession, out of possession, defending transitions, attacking transitions. Like those are like the 4 pillars of football. You know what I mean? Like if you're not good at any of those four things, or rather, if you're not good at 3 or 4 of those things, then you're going to struggle. And I just think he just does not learn from his mistakes, and as a result, he gets more and more cautious. The team can't really just defend that well, and he can't trust his team to defend. But at the same time, the team isn't structured well enough to defend, and then it
Yeah.
just goes back to why are we defending again? And then we try to play out from the back, it doesn't work. So then we start to knock it long, and then that doesn't work. It's just like it's a like I said, it's a constant cycle. Like it's never ending. It's I don't know. Like I want him to do well. If you telling me if you told me if you come from the future and you tell me Emery won the Champions League with Arsenal, I'm not gonna be sad. Like I'm not gonna say I hate this guy. Why is he winning Champions League? Like, oh no, man, I'll be happy in it. Like I'll be
Yeah,
buzzing. You
you're
get
not
me?
exactly Leroy, are you?
Exactly. Like the thing is that the difference between me, people who don't like Emery, and the Wenger out brigade is that even if Wenger won a quadruple, they would not care. They
Yeah.
they flat out wanted Wenger gone, whatever happened. Like they were saying stuff like, "Oh, let's finish fifth so Wenger leaves." Me on the other hand, I want him to do well. It's just that if we finish fifth, he will go. So I can't just say, "Oh, you know what? Let's hope we finish fifth." No, man. Like if he finish fifth, he'll go. If he finish fourth and play good football, he will stay, and I'll be fine with that. But evidently, that's not going to happen. Like I'm not biased with this guy. I just don't like the way we play. Like it's like I said earlier. Like I was saying to you guys before the recording. Like it's not that things don't work. It's not that he's not trying to implement a style or trying to play players in certain ways. It's just the problem is it sucks. That's the problem. It just sucks. Like it's like I'm watching everything we do on the pitch is mediocre. That's it. Like
Okay, Des, what do you think about this? Is he right in his approach to basically tell us that Emery sucks and that basically I should be appointed manager?
Nah, I don't think Emery is a bad manager. He's a good manager. You don't win the Europa League and stuff like that. And the way PSG actually played good football. You don't do all these things when you're a bad manager. He's a good manager. I just feel like the main issue with him is the lack of control. And when you don't have that and you have a lot of players with these flaws, then you'll be exposed over and over again. That's just the main issue with him. And I feel like when we do look for the next manager, we have to make sure we find someone who's at least able to give us a lot of control during games, either through good positional play or through good pressing. I think those are the key things we need to look for in our next manager.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, like I think the lack of control is like a massive issue, and I saw this thread for like a Valencia fan. His name's at Cerebron, and he was basically like, I don't know if you guys saw that thread where he was talking
Yeah, I
about
saw this man.
Valencia. Yeah,
Yeah.
Valencia against Real Madrid. Yeah, like they were down to 10 men, and then they went 4-1 up, having gone down to 9 men, and literally all that Valencia did in that game was basically like sit back and hoof the ball, and it's eerily similar to how Arsenal are playing right now, and that was 11 years ago. So that's quite worrying. And it just goes back to he's not learning from his mistakes. He's not learning from what went wrong. And look, I want him to do well. It's just that look, I don't think he's a terrible manager. I just think the way we're playing is really poor. And unless that changes, he's gonna walk. But I want him to do well. He's not a terrible manager. It's just that I don't think he's right for Arsenal Football Club, and that evidently is starting to become more and more clear. He's got some bright ideas. It's just that he doesn't quite know how to implement them. Like what I mean, like some most managers probably don't even care about passing out from the back. He does, and that's nice. It's just that again, it doesn't work
Yeah, he doesn't know
very
how to
well.
do it, basically.
Yeah, like if he was really good at doing it, if we were better controlling games, if we were like adjusting to our players' strengths, like you can't play a midfield of Xhaka, Guendouzi, Ceballos, and Özil and not keep the ball. Like, what's the point of playing them then? You may as well just play, 3-4 destroyers and then just sit back in it. Like, even that would even that wouldn't suffice. But at least I would say, okay, your plan is to sit back. You're going to do that. Maybe it suits the players you have. Fair enough. But
But
yeah,
we need to remember that. But we need to remember that playing that midfield of Xhaka, Guendouzi, Ceballos, Ozil is nice when you have the ball. But once you lose control of the game, then you can't retain the ball anymore. And
that's
because we
true.
don't have, because we can't press, then it becomes difficult, and then the game becomes end to end. Once the control is lost, once Watford scored their first goal from our mistake, they gained confidence. They started attacking us. We lost control. We couldn't keep up anymore. So although
Yeah,
that midfield looks like it should be dominating, if you can't, if you lose control of the game when opposition are gaining momentum, then you're never going to be able to get back into the game anymore. That's if you look at Man City at times when they lost to Liverpool in the Champions League. A lot. I think the goals came around the same, like in a short period of time. Liverpool scored a few goals, if I can remember correctly. It's because
yeah,
that midfield. I always say Man City's midfield is very good against the weak teams, but it's not. They're not real centre mids. They can't control
no,
games because they're not actual centre mids. And if when they lose control of games, and they're not able to sustain the pressure that they do, or the pressing that they have, then all of a sudden you start seeing Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva running backwards. They can't defend. They couldn't defend against Liverpool, and then Liverpool scored. I think they scored 2 goals in quick succession quickly because
in the
they
Champions League, yeah, they did, yeah,
Champions League because they lost control of the game because they're not real center mids, and they're not like they don't have defensive instincts. That's why I don't think that midfield is good enough for the Champions League for them. It's the same for us as well. If our midfield is not good enough physically and we don't have control, we're never going to be able to control teams, and we're never
yeah,
going to be able to get the ball back quick enough.
precisely, yeah. Like with Liverpool, their midfield, like obviously we all say that perhaps they don't pass the ball well enough, so rather they don't create well enough. But their midfield physically, you cannot you cannot outmuscle them. It's very hard to gain control over Liverpool and win the midfield battle physically. I mean, technically you might be able to, but physically it's very hard to overwhelm them. And if you see how Liverpool are in the Champions League, they haven't lost a knockout game like at
Mm.
all since he joined. Apart from literally the uh, the final in Kiev. Like Liverpool's template, I think, is something that a lot of teams probably us even are looking at. I think it's more
We're
so
trying
that
to implement it, mate.
yeah,
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that we're trying to implement how Liverpool play going
yeah,
forward.
and even Ceballos was saying that like in his interview, and Emery said Liverpool is the kind of model we should look at, and he wasn't talking about just how they play. He was also looking at the fact that they evolved in a short time. Obviously, like 3 years ago, you saw them lose to Sevilla, Unai Emery Sevilla, and look now the European Championship champions. But I mean, I think with us, like Des said, like the midfield that we had, it really is only good when we have the ball. And if we're not gonna have the ball, then you're just thinking, then what's the point of having those players on the pitch? And then he obviously took them off. And while people have been saying, oh, when Ceballos came off, we lost control. The problem is, even if he stayed on, he would have essentially been a ghost on the pitch. Like he would not have been able to match up to Decore physically. And
As soon as we lost
exactly,
control of the game, he wasn't able to help us to retain the ball anymore. So
exactly,
there was really no point of him being on the pitch anymore.
yeah, exactly. That's why I wasn't mad when he came off. I think my problem was that, first of all, he made that sub like I think like 60 minutes, and the sub itself didn't, it didn't really help. And like he didn't really change the shape too much until literally when Ozil came off. But that was at 70 minutes, and by then you could just tell the game was slipping away from us. So yeah, it's just the lack of control, even like off the ball or on the ball, is really really scary. Like if we're like City, who are really good on the ball, perhaps we might would have been able to just scrape through the game. We would have kept possession for about 5 minutes, created a chance, scored, and then maybe Watford would have just blown out some steam. But if you're not going to retain possession high up, and if you're not going to be compact enough defensively, like the game is basically going to go one way. And like under Emery, a lot of games have been end to end, and obviously lacking control. But against Watford, it was literally just one way traffic for a good 15,
The,
20 minutes.
the second
And
half registered about 23 chances for Watford, of which
mhm,
17 were key passes. You can, you know, make the make the case yourself here.
yeah, it's just very frightening when we have games like that. And we had games like that last season as well. Like Palace away, we had like 7 shots and like 2 on target, which were the goals. And they had 16 shots, 3 on target. And
Mm.
it's just stuff like that. And even like if you're gonna give away loads of shots, at least be like Burnley, but Burnley, like, you may have a lot of shots against them, but not many are going to be clear chances because they'll block every shot or they'll make you take like low risk chances. But Burnley, they always dodge expected goals, but more so in their favor rather than in terms of what the opposition create. Whereas with us, I just feel that we don't create enough, but the opposition create too much. So it's just, again, it just goes back to the lack of balance, the lack of control, the lack of structure.
Yeah,
So
but I do feel like a lot of the shots the opposition takes, I feel like sometimes they do get exaggerated. Sometimes they're
yeah,
taking shots that are not from good areas, and then people are thinking that we're getting dominated. Although the main reason why they're taking the shots is because we're not controlling the game and we're losing balance, and the game's becoming end to end. So that's the
yeah.
reason why. Well, that will be a problem in the long run. But in individual games, in certain games, I don't feel like these shots are really, what's it called, or important, great shots or anything like that. But
No, that's true. Yeah.
it's just that the reason why the shots are happening, that's my main problem with Emery. The reason why the
Yeah,
shots are happening is
yeah.
not
Like
so much
even
about the quality of the shot.
yeah, like
Yeah,
against Burnley, like Burnley had more shots than us, but I generally believe we were the better team. It's just more so that Burnley having that many shots is worrying because a better team with those amount of chances probably would score, and also the fact that
and
again we're not controlling games properly, so it just goes back to, well, why are Burnley have many shots? Again, lack of control. The lack of control leads just us not creating enough to stave off the pressure. And then it just, yeah, again, it just keeps going on and on and on.
it makes things worse, because my problem with Emery is this: he's promoting a defensive style of football, and we're not defensive. We're absolutely awful defensively, and people will point to the back four that it's poor. Mate, we have had worse back four than this, and we've not been this bad before in any time that I've seen under Arsene Wenger. This is statistically the worst we've been defensively in over 2 decades. So when I see something like that, I have to question the manager because the manager is the guy who sets the team up, and his lack of control, his uh, his lies is something I really hate. He basically told us that we'd be protagonists. We're anything but protagonists, and that makes me worry going forward. Not to mention that someone like Farke at Norwich is basically playing better football with lesser players than Unai Emery. I'm not really an advocate of you know it's not a requirement for me personally that my team has to play great football, but and having an identity, whether it's defensive or offensive, is important for a big club. And we don't have that. We basically change our identity game by game. And that only leads to players questioning the manager, players questioning his tactics, and players not performing as well as they should. We have poor defenders. We all recognize that. We have poor defenders. But the fact of the matter is that we should not be giving opponents those kinds of chances when when I don't even see relegation sides conceding chances like we do. We basically have had 91 shots so far. That's the most in the top five leagues. Can you imagine? This
Yeah,
is
it's
Arsenal
like
football.
it's insane, really. It's just that the fact that it's this much is the real concerning part, rather than, oh, this team's having shots on goal against us. It's just more so that every game stuff like this is happening, and that's the worrying part. But like, I actually want to go back to Emery. Like Emery, he said he wants it to be a quote unquote
Protagonist.
chameleon team. No, like he said something about chameleon team where we're going to be
Yeah,
adaptable, we're going to be good in possession on the counter attack and such. And like, I think that's all well and good. Like, I really don't have any problem with these ideas. Like, he said he wants it to be protagonist, and while I've not seen that, I just think I like to say that perhaps he just didn't didn't know what the word meant. I don't know. Like that's just the feeling that I get. Like I'm not trying to be rude. Like saying he doesn't understand English. I'm just saying he probably just didn't get what the word meant. Like, but I don't know. Like with Unai, like I just feel that I think he's too smart for his
too
own good.
reactive.
Yeah, he has all these like these really like grandiose ideas. He wants the team to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that. But at the end of the day, everything we do is different. Yes, same. Like the formation may be different, the players may be different, but the problems stay the same. And then obviously, that's why I'm questioning him. So
Okay, Des, what do you think about this? Do you like this reactive style of football that Unai Emery supposedly wants to implement on his side, or is that too unbecoming of the third biggest club in England?
Yeah, see, the thing with me is I don't think that he actually wants to be a reactive manager. I don't think that's the case. I think in certain games, like against Liverpool, Man City, that's what he wants to do. But I don't think that's what he really wants in general. I feel like what he wants is for us to be able to break team down with possession, and then when the team eventually has possession, we're able to counterattack and score from there. So I think that's the whole point of the chameleon, whereby if we're dominating, we can score. If we're not dominating, we can still score. Like against Watford, as I said before, we scored in two different ways. I think that's what he wants to happen. I think he is trying to get us to dominate the game, but it's just not working. I think that's just the main issue. I don't feel like he goes in. I don't believe he goes into game thinking that he wants to play an end to end against Watford, or he wants to be defensive against Watford or against teams like this. I don't believe that's what he wants. I think it's just the result of his coaching. I think that's just what's happening.
yeah, yeah. Like I,
We're not
I
really,
don't think it's a bad
not all
manager.
of us are fans. Not all of us are fans of that, right? None of us really like this reactive approach. And I, Des, you said that he doesn't want to do it, but he's basically doing it on the bloody pitch, and that's what concerns me. What he wants to do and what's happening are two different things with Unai Emery, and that's where I draw the line. I want my manager to be precise with us as fans. I want him to tell us that, lads, we're going to play defensively, that we're going to play offensively, that we're going to set up shop, that we're going to attack the team, that we're going to set up on the counter. I, I don't even remember the last time we had a great, um, you know, play. Basically, I don't even remember that a mid block or something.
Mm, yeah. In certain if you look at the game, I think was it the game where Ozil played well, the one against Leicester. I think in certain games we've dominated. In certain games we've dominated, and you can see how good we can be in possession against Tottenham. Against Tottenham, after we started dominating them, I think that was like in the last 25 minutes of the first half and going into the second half. We started dominating them, and you can see how good we can be when we're in control and forcing them back. And every time they try to play the counter attack, we won the ball back again, and we start pressing them again, and we start attacking them again. I feel like these are the little things that we can do. It's just that we're doing it in spells. We're just not able to do it over 90 minutes. It's the same with the pressing. We can do the pressing in spells. We're just not able to do it over 90 minutes. It's a different level. But at the end of the day, I feel like people are a bit like when people see a manager not being able to do same thing, they feel like, oh, Emery's shit and stuff like that. But you have to think about it. There's not that many elite managers or world class managers. There's Klopp, there's Pochettino, there's Pep, there's Conte, there's Pochettino. And there's not the top managers are few. There aren't that many. And a lot of other managers who can actually coach a pressing side or coach a positional side, play team, like Thomas Tuchel, for example, he's got big flaws defensively. So there aren't that many options like we think. We're not just gonna find just any manager and think like he's going to implement this. It's not, isn't that they're not that common. So I don't think it's something that we can just easily solve. I mean, if Emery was to walk right now, I would take Allegri if Emery was to walk, because I know that he's not going to implement a great pressing team or great possession team, but he's very good tactically. So he will not. He's basically he's like Emery, but he's way better tactically. So he knows how to manage. He knows how to manage games, and that
Yeah,
and that that I would take. I would take someone who can manage a game over someone who wants to be a pressing side or a positional side, but he's got big flaws defensively. I would take
Yeah,
someone that can manage the game better than that.
I agree. Yeah, it's just like what I was saying earlier about Simeone. Like I would rather us be, you know, be a what you see is what you get team. Like where with Simeone, what you see is what you get. His teams are going to be very hard to break down. They'll create chances on the counter attack, and overall, it's just going to be impossible for you to create quality chances against them time and time again. If we were like that under Emery, I'm sure some people will complain and say, "Why are we defensive? Why are we so hard to bring them. Why can't we create more chances? But at least I would say, look, this is the way we're going to play. If it gets us results, fair, then so be it. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. If what you are seeing on the pitch works, by all means do it. And again, it just goes back to Unai. Like what he's doing isn't working, and that's the big problem. And even like with under Arsenal, I felt that whenever we sat back under Arsenal, like the problem with the last couple of like years under Arsenal was we were very open off the ball, so teams just hit us on the break very easily. Transitions, but whenever we just shut up shop under Wenger, I rarely, if ever, felt we were very poor defensively. Like there's a lot of games I can go back to, like over his like 1,200 odd games where we actually just sat back in a mid block or in a really deep block, and we looked fine defensively. Like we looked very solid defensively. But under Unai, that hasn't been the case. So again, it's just
We're
like
not
it's
not
quite worrying.
we're not really being coached. Basically, that's my gripe here.
I don't
Anyways,
know. I don't know about that actually. I would say we are being coached. It's just more so that what he wants the team to do is just out of his hands. Like he's out of his depth. But I wouldn't say he's a bad coach. Like I think it's more so that everything he tries to do does not work.
yeah,
I think
makes
that's
sense.
just a problem. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's. I'm just going to remind you that we have Eintracht Frankfurt waiting for us in the Europa League. Yay! Bloody hell, they scare me. Anyways, I'm just going to ask a quick prediction before we go about that game and the Villa game. Des, you first.
I think Frankfurt, they've lost a few players, so I don't think they'll be as good as they were last season. We should win, but it sort of depends on the team, on the players we pick. I'll rather pick the youth players. I'm not too concerned about Europa League. I'll rather pick the youth players and see how we go from there. Possibly a draw then.
All right. What about the Villa game?
The Villa game, I think we win that. I don't think they're good enough offensively to threaten us.
Fair enough. Abdul, you?
The Frankfurt game, I think I'm more worried because I feel it's gonna be quite a hostile, atmosphere. But I reckon it'll probably be like a draw, maybe. Like maybe we'll lose the game, but even if you lose the game, I won't be too concerned because it's Europa League group stages. I don't think there's too much up for grabs on match day one. So I mean, I'm gonna go to the Standard Liège game because Europa League tickets are very cheap. I think if we get a draw at Frankfurt and then beat Standard Liège, that's a good start. So I reckon it'll probably be like a 1-1 draw, something like that.
And the Villa home game?
Yeah, as for the Villa game, I think we'll win mainly just because I reckon at home we generally do look a bit more comfortable, and I don't think like I said, I don't think Villa are gonna, I don't think Villa are gonna like convert, any chances that they create. Like I mean, they'll probably have a few chances, like a few chances here or there, but I don't think we'll be breached too much. I think it'll probably be like a 3-1 or a 2-1, something like that. To us.
Fair enough. I personally feel that Frankfurt are going to annihilate us because the side's going to be young, and we shit the bed when we're away from home. So yeah, that's ruined. I'm going for 2-0 Frankfurt, and the Villa game is just going to be again edge of the seat stuff. But I feel that we're going to win 3-1 with Nicolas Pepe scoring his first goal. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. We hope to have you again later on, and I think we're going to have a very special guest on the next episode, hopefully. Please. Okay. Anyways, thanks, Abdul. Des, it's been a pleasure, lads.
All right.
Take care,
Thank you.
guys.
Yeah. Thank you.